Okay, so let's review what I was talking about on the drill press and the bike real quick with this PowerPoint that PLTW has. And you're maybe not even going to get to writing anything in this today in your observing mechanisms. That might be for next time. This is going to be a couple day, maybe even 3 day deal for you guys because it usually takes me a few class periods to do this. Okay, so mechanisms. So here's the point where if we were in class, I'd say, hey, what is a mechanism? And hopefully a bunch of kids would raise their hand and be able to tell me what a mechanism is. Now, do you have to give this exact definition? No, this is pretty long. A mechanism is a part of a machine which contains two or more pieces arranged so that the motion of one compels the motion of the others. Well, that's basically saying, here's what you can remember, is that one thing moves and it moves something else. So you have an input, you have an output. One thing making another thing move, that's a mechanism. That's what they're for. Now, what do? Here you go. They are used to, and I said this before, they're used to change four things. And maybe I said you might not have to write anything in this today, but wouldn't be a bad idea right here, since this is one of your learning targets and you're going to use it later. I would write this right here at the bottom of the first page, and you don't have to write it all out like this. Just write at the top, say, mechanisms change, and then list direction of movement, type of movement, speed, and torque. Now, this says speed of movement. Yeah, we know it's the movement. So, and then down here it says torque or force. So here's the deal with that. Torque is the same as force. It's just that torque is when we talk rotary or circular motion, and force is in a straight line. So it's the same thing. So write those down. So those are the four things a mechanism can change: direction of movement, type of movement, speed, and torque. Okay, then mechanisms change direction. So meshed gears in a gear train always turn in opposite directions. So if this gear spins this way, then this gear is going to spin this way. And I'll show you an animation on this PowerPoint in a minute that shows you that. Then it says the flow of power is reversible only if you can make the input shaft turn by turning the output shaft. We're going to talk about this more later. Basically, just like it says, if you can turn the output shaft and make the input turn, so you turn the output, make the input turn, the flow of power is reversible. It doesn't mean much to you now, it will later. Okay, so mechanisms change movement. That's one of the four things we said it could change. There's four types of movement. This lists the four types of movement and shows them. Like right here, rotary motion, we talked about that with the drill press and the bike. Rotary motion is exactly that. Something that spins is rotary. These gears here, we could look at this, we could take this farther and talk about gear ratios, which we're going to get into later. In fact, I'll bring this up later and we'll figure out the gear ratio of this. But you can see that if we wait for them, when they meet, right? We got one more here. Okay, let's count how many times this little one goes around. 1, 2, it went around 2.5 to the big one's 1. So our gear ratio is going to be 2.5 to 1 or 1 to 2.5. We don't know because we don't know which the input is and which is the output. Now, okay, so that's rotary motion. Reciprocating, they show a spring. It's basically an up and down motion or side to side motion. It's back and forth, up and down, as opposed to linear over here, which this is the rack and pinion they're showing. We talked about that a little bit. This rack is going in a linear motion because it's traveling in one direction in a straight line. People get reciprocating and linear mixed up. In fact, I got my picture in front of linear there. They get reciprocating and linear mixed up because reciprocating is like linear, except for it's got to go back and forth. Oscillating is basically swinging from a pivot point, such as like they show here, a swing set. Something else might be a door. Door on a hinge. That is oscillating, even though it's not maybe this motion, it's side to side motion, it's still oscillating. What else is oscillating? A pendulum on a clock. If you hold a yo-yo by the string and just grab it and let it swing back and forth, that would be oscillating. Okay, mechanisms, change speed. This is getting into gear ratios and things that we could talk about when we look at the bike like we did before. I'm going to get into this next time, and we're going to call this for today. So the only thing you probably have written on your observing mechanisms is maybe you highlighted the first two sentences like I did, and you wrote the 4 things that a mechanism can change down at the bottom. See you next time, folks.